Welcome to Sell Your Books Saturday, day 125 of the 2-Minute Author Challenge. Today's quote comes from the amazing Tony Robbins, and it's a great one. If you want to take the island, then burn your boats. With absolute commitment comes the insights that create real victory. So how does that relate to selling your books? Well, if you're not committed to the process, if you haven't built a plan, and you're not committed to executing that plan, no matter what problems crop up for you, you're probably not going to be very successful. And so in some fashion, you need to mentally burn the boats that are preventing you from moving forward in a way that will ensure your ultimate success. Excuse me. So that's kind of what I want to talk about today, about that psychological burning of the boats to properly motivate us. I guess that's the phrase I'm looking for, to properly motivate us to do the things we need to do in order for our books to be successful. And this whole commitment thing really is a bit of an odd duck. It's not just one thing. It's a whole bunch of other things wrapped up together, really. And before we can commit 100% to doing anything, we need to be motivated to do that thing. And not only motivated, but we need to be properly motivated. Because when we're properly motivated, we'll do whatever it takes, no matter what. No matter what problems we face, no matter how many times we fall down, we will get back up and try it one more time. And that's, I hate to say it, but that's how success is actually achieved. It's not by, hitting a grand slam on your first at bat. It's by getting all of those base runs, to steal some baseball analogies from Casey Demchak. It's about getting all those base hits that are required to help you and your team win. Proper motivation comes in many forms as well. There's positive motivation and there's negative motivation. Sadly, for many people, the negative motivation is more effective. The positive motivations, for reasons that I don't understand and most psychologists don't either, the positive stuff doesn't typically motivate the average person as well as the fear of something. The risk versus reward thing. For example, I forget the year, Cortés was a commander of I believe it was 11 or 12 ships that were sent over to Mexico. And they landed in Mexico, and the very first thing Cortés did, because he understood how to properly motivate his troops, he ordered the burning of all their boats. So there was no fallback position. There was no plan B. There was, we succeed or we die, literally. And of course, with no plan B, with no fallback position, with no psychological safety net to fall back on, they of course succeeded. Now, you can have all the controversy you want around what they did, why they did it. We're not going to step into any of that. We're simply talking about how to properly motivate an individual to do everything within their power, no matter what. And Cortés successfully did that. So let's bring this into the context of writing and publishing our book. We require a bunch of different things. We need proper motivation in order to keep writing every single day to make sure we get all those words onto the page so that we can actually complete a book and publish it. We need to have a commitment to see that process through, that writing process through, so that no matter what, every single day we do the thing that we said we were going to do, which is sit down and write, some number of words or some number of pages in order to get that first draft completed. And when it comes to motivation, success, if you're being motivated by, success, then you must have sufficient rewards in whatever that goal is in order to keep you moving forward. So some of those things could be like, it all needs to answer those questions. What's in it for me? If I can answer the question in a positive fashion of what's in it for me by writing and publishing my book, that can be one of those sort of success rewards that I will gain by completing that process. I can do the same thing with my readers. Like, if I'm properly solving a problem for a whole bunch of different people that need the solution that I have found for whatever that problem might be, that can be another really great motivating factor of the impact you're going to have in the world. That's a positive motivation. How will your published book improve your own life? There's so many layers to that as well. So pick one that works for you and use that. And then, of course, that fulfillment, that sense of fulfillment that comes from, writing and publishing a book that helps a lot of people. These are all really great positive motivators. But failure must also have consequences, actual, real consequences. And this is why the negative stuff tends to be a little more effective for a lot of people, because we're more likely to do something because we fear the loss of something else or because we're afraid of the consequence than we are to do it because we want to feel fulfilled. We will always lie to ourselves and tell ourselves, well, I didn't achieve everything I wanted to, but that's okay because, and then we'll fill in whatever the excuse of the day is. But when we're afraid of losing whatever that might be, that can be a much more powerful motivator. So what have you got to lose? If you can answer that question, with multiple layers of what failure on this level means for you, what it's going to cost you, that's a really great way of motivating things. How will that affect the loss of this, whatever that thing is, affect your life? Again, great question to ask. How will this affect your family? If you're unsuccessful, and that will affect how you behave, how you act in response to everything in your life, including your family and your friends, and all those people that you care about most. So if you failed to do something that has a psychological effect on you, that doesn't just stop with you, it actually flows out into the rest of the world around you as well. So here's the problem with a plan B. It makes failure an option. It makes failure acceptable on some level because, I have this fallback thing that I can go and do instead, right? When we really want to make sure that there is no plan B. We want to make sure that we don't give ourselves an acceptable excuse, if you will, for failure. Because when we have that safety net, when we have that plan B just waiting in the wings for when we fail, there's no impetus to not fail because there's always something that's psychologically safe waiting in the wings. We're never going to fully commit to the process. And that's a huge problem, especially when it comes to the marketing of your book. Maybe not so much in the writing and the publishing of it, but certainly in the marketing. That's where a lot of authors fall down. And we tend to lie to ourselves about why that failure is acceptable. And if there's no real consequences, what's probably going to happen is you're never going to get that thing that's out there within your grasp. And that's really sad, right? Because we didn't write and publish this book for no reason. We wrote and published this book so we could have this amazing impact in the world and change people's lives for the better. That's the purpose. And that's a really beautiful thing. And yet, if we don't make people aware that we have this solution, we can never have that impact, right? And it's all because failure has become an option for us. Failure has become, on some level, acceptable. And that's unacceptable to me. Let me put it that way. Failure must never be an option, because whenever failure is an option, you're just not going to commit. So what does burning the boats look like for you? That's a question only you can answer. I can't answer that for you. I can probably give you a couple of hints, but I would like you to define, what does burning the boats look like in the process of writing your first draft? What does failure look like when you're writing your first draft? How can you make that failure completely unacceptable on every level? Emotional, psychological, intellectual, whatever you can do to make that unacceptable, that's the thing that you should try and do. And that psychological, metaphorical burning of the boats in that instance is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Same thing applies to your final draft. You've gone through all the work of completing the first draft, you've gone through all the editing process, you've done all that work, and yet somehow that completion is a challenge. So how do you burn the boats in that context? Again, it could be the same thing as prior, it could be something different. But these are questions only you can answer. And then the same thing for publishing your book. You've done all the work to get it completed, and now that last big scary moment is waiting there. And too many authors look at the publish button on the Amazon KDP dashboard as this terrifying thing, when in reality it is the most empowering button on the internet for authors. It truly is. So how can you shift your attitude around that so that you embrace that empowerment, you embrace the possibilities as opposed to being afraid of something else. And then, of course, in marketing your book, no matter how awesome a book you write, if people don't know it exists, they can't buy it and learn from what you're teaching. That's just a simple reality. So what we need to find as authors who have completed and finished a book and published it, we need to find that proper motivation in order to keep doing those marketing efforts every single day. We need to find whatever that metaphorical burning of the boats is that will force us to do the thing that we're hesitant to do, and that's market our books. Especially, well, even, I'll follow what I put in the slides, even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. Because it's on those days where you're most likely to allow yourself the luxury of that plan B or of that excuses where, I don't want to do this and it's okay because fill in the blank with whatever lie you want to tell yourself that day. We can't allow ourselves to fail, because if we do, all those people who are out there waiting for the solution to the problem that we've solved in our books, they're never going to find it. And they're going to continue on in their misery and their suffering until they do find a solution. And it may not be yours because you're not doing this work, when yours is actually the answer that they need. So I hope that's useful to you. I hope that this burning of the books metaphor, I hope you find a way of implementing that in your life so that even on those really difficult days, you can still move forward and do the thing you need to do. Because writing and publishing the book is completely useless, unless we do the work required to market it to the people who are going to be best served by reading our book. All right? So I would love for you to connect with me on social media, on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. And all the links to all my social media platforms can be found at sleekbio.com/Christopher. I would love for you to connect with me there. Excuse me. And one last thing, just what is the positive motivation that burning the boats is going to give you? And what is the negative motivation that burning the boats is going to give you? If you can figure that stuff out, you are well on your way to be having a really successful book. And when I say successful, I mean it's getting into the hands of the people that you wrote that book to help. And isn't that what this is all about? Helping other people? I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will talk to you again tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and we'll talk about some self-improvement stuff tomorrow that I hope will kind of build on some of the stuff that we talked about today. All right? Bye for now.